Firstly, thanks, Don, for joining us today.
I'm pleased to be here, Scott.
I actually had the pleasure of seeing Don speaking live at one of the ASQ events. Great insight to share, lots of analytical data to support your topics, which is one thing I really like versus just discussing methodologies, actually tying it with information and tying it to real use cases, projects, and companies around the world. So I'm just as excited as everyone else to hear today's presentation. And once again, thanks again for sharing all your content, your expertise, and of course your time.
My pleasure.
So I'll just cover 2 slides about interfacing for any of you that are joining that don't know interfacing yet today. Interfacing has been around for over 25 years now as a pure play solutions provider, primarily in the knowledge management, business process management, governance, risk and compliance space, and now really in the digital and transformation world as well. We continue to win awards and recognition. We're actually listed in 4 different Gartner reports as a leader, as a global leader. We do have clients, partners, customers around the globe. And just as you can see with some of the more recent recognitions, I think the KM World and we're listed in the top Silicon 70, which is the top leading 70 trend-making companies of the year, beyond many others. So, like I said, they continue to come in, and really our products, if you could go to the next slide, is we have one flagship product that is not a custom solution per customer. It's truly an out-of-box product. It's a cloud-based product, fully mobile responsive, and has many different modules depending on your requirements. So on the low end starts with anything from cloud-based collaborative process mapping, documenting your standard operating procedures, assigning roles and responsibilities, then getting into things like improvement analysis, lean analysis, more continuous improvement around lifecycle management, and collecting feedback from end users, providing a platform for ongoing continuous improvement, but also governance in terms of control of who can access what and when, and who reviewed and approved what and when before disseminating and sharing this information, all the way down to the end user, the end employee who actually does these things, where they need to actually confirm they read and understand any new version of a process, a procedure, or risk control, so on and so forth. Then we move more into performance management, which more relates with today's topic around capturing objectives, breaking those down into sub-objectives and KPIs, setting target thresholds, and then actually monitoring those over time. But our uniqueness is that we tie those back with the actual business processes, the operations that they align with, so that when you start to get into the yellow, you can be more reactive operationally to ensure you never get into the red. And we also then move more into the GRC space, adding modules for risk assessment, control management, and audit, as well as policy and rules management, which continues to grow as laws and compliances never end. And as we know, new challenges, whether it be ISO 27000, ISO 9000, GDPR compliance, which is quite hot right now with the law that was just passed in Europe. And when we're discussing the digital space and transformation, really the platform can be used as a tool to document the current state, the future state, and not just the processes, but all the business entities related to the current and future state, including all this IT systems, metadata, services that are used on every process across the organization. And then we also have the digital business platform, which is a full-on digitization platform, meaning turning those documented processes into applications, digitizing them, integrating them with Internet of Things, automating your back office. And that has everything to do with forms design. You have a decision table, meaning business rules engine, process engine, dashboard manager, report engine, and really it's an integration bus as well for your other systems that you want to communicate more easily to and with. So that's all I'm going to be covering for today. If you are interested, feel free to reach out. But really the focus of today's topic and session is Dawn. So Dawn, if you can give the audience a bit of overview, a bit of background, who you are, and then obviously jump into the meat and potatoes of the presentation. And thanks again for today's session.
Okay, thanks very much, Scott. Really appreciate you organizing this program, and I'm pleased to be able to present today. I thank you too to the participants that have registered and want to learn more about organizational excellence. I'm hoping that this program will provide the same benefits to you that I've realized over time in my consulting practice and with client organizations. I'm the principal of organizational excellence specialists, and I've been working in this area since 1990, helping organizations across sectors to implement best practices and improve their performance. And when I earned my MBA and my certified management consultant designation way back when, there was no mention of excellence models. And I'm really pleased to have discovered this body of knowledge because it's really helped me to address any issue that a client organization is facing and to help those organizations improve their performance. I'm located on Vancouver Island on the west coast of Canada. And during this session, I'm going to share a little bit about my home for those of you that have not visited this part of the world before. Much of my work these days is done on the computer and via the internet. And occasionally I have to travel and enjoy other beautiful parts of the world. But one thing I really love about my work is experiencing other cultures and learning about the way other organizations do business in various parts of the world. And that whole exchange of knowledge and experience with others always has you on the path of lifelong learning. Here's a picture of the estuary in the Comox Valley where I live, and you can see the mountains in the background. And when we embark on an excellence journey or work to address an opportunity for improvement, it's a lot like climbing a mountain like you see in the background, one step at a time until you get to the top and can appreciate the great view and the effort involved in getting to the peak. In this session, I'm going to share a formula for success with you. It's a tried and true formula that works and has worked for decades. But the funny thing is, only a small percentage of the working population knows about it. It's one of those best kept secrets that shouldn't be a secret at all. It provides a long-term platform for success that is applicable to any size and type of organization. And it helps to deliver all the popular flavors of the week that you hear about, that are promised by other approaches, tools, and techniques that we hear about these days. These days we hear a lot about agility and innovation as an example. And nice thing about excellence models is that they've really a very comprehensive management system that covers the bases. And I haven't seen too much actually new that's come out in the last 10, 20 years that can't be addressed by an excellence model, or the umbrella that the excellence model provides really includes a lot of these things that we hear about. So here's that formula for success that I'm talking about. We've known over the last 25 years, given the research with excellence models, that if you successfully implement the best management practices that are common to high-performing organizations, you will develop a culture that's committed to excellence and achieve exceptional results across a balanced system of measurement. So I might just pause here and for the time to offer a polling question. And I'd like to get an idea from the audience that we have here today. Are you familiar with excellence models? Yes or no?
So we have it up there. I'm not sure, are you able to see the results on your end, Dawn?
No, so you can share them with me.
Okay, so I can see 75% said yes, 25% not too much, but luckily no one said no.
Okay, great. Well, I'll tell you, we've got quite an audience online today, because I have found when I'm speaking at conferences and with different professional groups, it kind of aligns what I found with the research. When I ask that question, it's about 20% of the audience has heard about excellence models, is familiar with them, 80% are not. and that's the stat we see around the world. But good to see that we've got an audience here that's heard about these excellence models, and that's fantastic.
Maybe they've heard of them, but
yeah,
doubtful they've all implemented them.
but the first step is being familiar, and then using, gaining that understanding and putting it to work for you. So I'm encouraged by that. I'd like to share some of the results that we've seen with excellence models around the world. In Canada, we have the Canadian Framework for Excellence, and these are some of the results that organizations have experienced when they've successfully implemented this model. And as you scan down the list, I'm sure you'll agree that these are benefits that are going to be appreciated by organizations across sectors. In the United States, where they have the Baldrige model, they've done a cost-benefit analysis that shows the importance of investing in the Baldrige program. And the benefits include all of the social costs of the Baldrige program and supports the belief that the program provides great value for the U.S. economy and could not be replicated by the private sector alone. And it's a pretty astonishing benefit to cost ratio that you see on the screen there. Another great study in the United States took a look at role model organizations across sectors that had implemented the Baldrige model. And the results they realized were a good return on investment. And particularly when you take a look at financial returns and customer and workforce satisfaction. And if I might just take a look at one of these role model organizations, the Iredell Statesville Schools is a K-12 schools, and they had budget and per pupil expenditures ranked 107 out of 115 districts. And their schools outperformed those districts in academics at the state and national level. Their students achieved 91% proficiency on state reading assessments, and they were able to increase their graduation rate from 61% to 81%, which is pretty impressive. In Europe, where they have the EFQM model, they did a study that took a look over the longer term of organizations that had successfully implemented that model, and they had demonstrated a positive relationship between the model and organizational performance for business organizations. And they were able to show over an 11-year period that this was sustainable and that they tracked the financial measures and showed the long-term sustainability of the model. In Australia, I really like this study that they did with 8 local government councils that were facing similar challenges. And it's the same challenges as a lot of our municipal governments are facing today, with the growing community expectations on service standards, increasing levels of public scrutiny, dealing with technology improvements, skill shortages, fiscal constraints, an increasingly complex legislative environment, and the overall mandate to achieve more with less. And what they learned is that when they put the Australian Business Excellence Framework in place, that they were able to assess and improve any aspect of the organization, whether it was leadership or strategy, the people side, information and knowledge, safety, service delivery, you name it. It made a difference right across the board for them. And in Asia, some recent research has taken a look at the use of excellence models there. And generally what we see in Asia is the use of the Baldrige or the AFQM model, or both together. And businesses there agree that these models make a difference. And they're primarily interested in competitiveness, profitability, and sustainability. But these businesses also reported that more time and effort should be put into making these models simpler to understand, and the value of the models need to be more clearly communicated. So again, that awareness increases. And they want increased assistance with benchmarking and how to learn from others about best practices. So I've been paying close attention to what the marketplace is saying over time and listening to client organizations when working with them to improve performance. And I've developed a turnkey toolkit that provides a more simple, straightforward, time-efficient, and cost-effective way of improving performance. And it's designed to align with the roles that we play as professionals. It might be the consultant moving through the business process of finding work, doing work, getting results, and earning return and referral business. Or it could be the leader in an organization that's embarking upon an excellence journey, and they want their people to learn more about excellence models and assess their current state, address gaps, monitor performance, and celebrate results. And of course, they could be working alongside a consultant or trainer, helping them in this regard as well. But this whole toolkit is designed to align with those journeys. Next, I'd like to share a few examples of organizations across sectors that have successfully implemented an excellence model and earned a National Excellence Award, because these are available in quite a number of countries around the world. And earning an award really means that they've been assessed by external professionals and demonstrated that they have successfully deployed the best management practices throughout the organization. They've developed a culture committed to excellence, and they've steadily improved their results across the balanced system of measurement for at least 3 years. And some of my client organizations, of course, have applied for and earned excellence awards as well. And the vast majority, I find, of clients, they implement an excellence model because they want to get the results, or they're having trouble in certain key management areas and want to address their issues and in turn improve performance. And the thing that I've noticed with these organizations over time are, a number of things I just wanted to share with you. That number one, we think about new ventures or entrepreneurs. Well, yes, they can use these best practices to create a good management system right off the bat. Do things the right way as you implement the best practices and get your business up and running. I've also found that a lot of organizations that have been up and running for a while have about 50% of the best practices in place. And they just need to build on this foundation to address gaps. And third thing I found is that, the excellence model can be used to improve the management system or a key management area. And generally, when we're improving the management system, we're reducing errors and rework and duplication, and we're improving communication. We're engaging employees. We're getting results across a balanced system of measurement. And so all of this happens over the course of, on average, I'd say about 3 years, as that organization is focusing, of course, on doing its work, but it's putting in place some of the things that it might not have put in place before.
Yeah, hi, Don. And sorry to jump in. I'm not sure if you're switching slides, but we're still stuck on the success stories slide.
Okay, yes, I am getting ready to switch.
Oh, okay. Just wanted to make sure.
Okay. Yeah, I was just lingering there a little bit. And now I'm going to launch into talking about some of these organizations that have realized some great results. Heartland Health is located in Missouri, where the population is 75,000 and 300,000 in the greater area. And the hospital's got 300 employees. And they put the Baldrige model in place and really achieved some world-class results. And some of these results are achieving 90% ratings in overall outpatient satisfaction, being rated by an external agency in the 90th percentile for healthcare and specialist care, being ranked in the top 15% of hospitals nationally for patient safety. They've also applied Six Sigma methods in process improvement initiatives to control costs, prevent rework and errors, and minimize the cost of inspections, tests, and audits. And the cost savings that they've realized as a result of their process improvements have increased from approximately 8 million in 2005 to more than 25 million in 2009. The region of Peel that we have in the province of Ontario here in Canada, it's a debt-free AAA credit rating region that has the lowest utility rates. Here we've at the point in time that these measures were taken, there was 92% of staff showing understanding of the strategic direction. 71 or 70% of citizens agreed that the region does an excellent job of providing services to citizens. And this is pretty high compared to what the province scored at 38%. And some of their successful initiatives have included answering 80% of calls within 20 seconds. And that number used to be 50%. Their disabled transit no-shows have declined from 50% to 25%. Number of registration errors has declined 100%. Complaints have declined from 1.5% to 0.2%. Client satisfaction increased from 69 to 75%. And amongst the citizens, 81% are satisfied with recycling, 75% satisfied with wastewater, and 57% satisfied with road maintenance. Ritz-Carlton, many of you are probably familiar with this luxury hotel chain that has hotels around the world. One of their goals when they first started their excellence journey was to achieve 100% customer loyalty. And one of the initiatives was to eliminate problems. And they did studied things that weren't going so well, and they found that there was about 1,000 instances of problems that arose when they're interacting with overnight guests, and there were about 1,000 instances during their interactions with meeting and event planners. They analyzed and improved their work process to ensure that these problems did not occur. And they undertook some other initiatives like empowering their employees to spend up to $2,000 to immediately correct a problem or handle a complaint, and providing first-year managers and employees with between 250 and 310 hours of training. And some of the results that they reported back in 1999 were that 99% of their meeting planners said that they were satisfied, and 75% of their overnight guests reported extreme satisfaction with their overall experience, and 99% of guests said they were satisfied. They realized a pre-tax return on investment and earnings that nearly doubled between 1995 and 1999 when they were implementing this good management system. And their revenue per available room, which is the industry's measure of market share, continued to grow and exceeded the industry average by more than 300%. In the eastern side of Canada, we have Acadian Seaplants, and this business has taken an undervalued crop, seaweed, and created a great range of incredible products that are now exported to over 80 countries in the world. And they've got 30 researchers working with other researchers and institutions around the globe. So the product is peer reviewed, and they've been really innovative in always finding more ways to use this product. And of note, of particular interest here is their ability to harvest the seaweed and deliver a high quality product. And I think about one of the markets they serve, and it's the Japanese market that wants each piece of product to be the same size. And so they've been able to deliver, a pretty high level of quality to these markets. Baxter Corporation, again, located in Canada, they serve 850 institutions in more than 100 countries. And it's a large-scale manufacturing plant that produces life-sustaining intravenous and dialysis solutions. They've earned a really good reputation for their products and have been recognized as one of the best places to work. And some of their initiatives and results have included things like reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 40%, recycling 71% of waste, sending zero waste to the landfill, recognizing that employees make the company excellent, and supporting the disadvantaged. Between 2013 and 2015, they provided millions in grants and donations and participated in disaster relief efforts, as an example. So I'd like to just note that we have Organizational Excellence Specialist LinkedIn group site that is free for anyone to join. And there's these examples and countless others are shared so that other professionals can learn more about high-performing organizations and the sorts of results that they've been able to realize across a balanced system of measurement. So I'd like to just pause here with another polling question. And I'd like to ask you, what approach does your organization use to strive for excellence? Are you using an excellence model, ISO, Lean and Six Sigma, another system? Just take a moment here to have you answer that question.
It's up and the responses are coming in. Looks like we have a split between ISO and other at 33, and then 17 on Lean Six Sigma and 17 on Balanced Scorecard and 0 on excellence models.
Oh, interesting. Very interesting. Well, you know, those ISO standards are pretty prevalent around the world, and Lean and Six Sigma is a hot topic over the last number of years, and Balanced Scorecard has always been popular. And, you know, there's some organizations that have their own system in place, but interesting statistic about the excellence model.
Yeah, I agree.
So, yeah, I'll just say that an excellence model is really robust, and it provides an umbrella for all of these other approaches and tools and techniques. And so you'll find that you can build on what you're doing with an excellence model, and you'll probably find ways to improve performance when you feel that you may have stalled where you're at right now. So I'd encourage you to take a look at that. So I'd like to talk now a little bit about the Turnkey Toolkit, and it's designed to provide a more simple, straightforward, time-efficient, and cost-effective way of improving performance. You know, basically, I've packaged up everything that I've learned works really well with organizations, and I wanted to make sure that the tools could be used with any excellence model, you know, quality approach, tool, or technique. And it's designed, as I said earlier, to align with the roles that we play as a leader in an organization or as a consultant working with organizations. And it's, you know, what really motivated me to develop this toolkit was, you know, that call to make this whole process more simple and straightforward. And I also wanted to make a difference with that global research statistic that tells us that only 10 to 20% of the working population knows about excellence models. I really wanted to try to increase that awareness so that people could better understand and apply this learning and get some good results. And I thought we could make a difference with it around the world if we put this in the hands of good professionals in various countries. So the toolkit provides these tools. You know, you've got publication that's about 240 pages in length. There's presentations to pique interest, scenario games to work with leaders to think about where they're at now and where they want to be in the future. There's an automated assessment tool that gives you some feedback on the culture of excellence in your organization, or the full assessment that provides feedback on that culture or the deployment of these best management practices. There's a train the trainer program for professionals that want to be able to do this sort of work and use the tools within an organization or across organizations if they happen to be working as a consultant or trainer. And then most recently, over the last 3 years, I've been developing the Global Organizational Excellence Index, which is going to give us a snapshot of what's going on by organization size, industry sector, and country. And this, of course, can be used for benchmarking. This is a snapshot of the Organizational Excellence Framework publication, or the model. And what it captures is it integrates the leading global excellence models. So you've got the definitions of these principles and best management practices in one place. but then it adds to the literature, fills a big gap, and that gap is implementation guidelines. Most frequently asked question I've ever received is, how do you do this, or how do you do that? So this publication provides that information. And the picture shows on the inner part of the ring of circles here, the principles, the 9 principles that characterize culture of excellence. And the middle ring are the key management areas that house all of the best management practices. And the outer ring is the continuous improvement methodology we use, and also the performance measures we use. And these performance measures provide a balanced system of measurement, so you can choose amongst them to get a read on how you're doing in each of the key management areas and how the organization is doing overall. It's a great place to shop for measures if you're interested in doing that, because these are the measures that are commonly used throughout the world by high-performing organizations, and then it allows you to benchmark with others. The publication includes an introduction that talks about the intent of the framework, global overview. It provides a snapshot of the principles and the practices and the content that's included in the publication. It speaks about how you can apply this to a key management area, or you can work to implement the entire system. It talks about the common methodology that we use, in working with organizations in this respect, and that's assessing the organization against it, preparing an improvement plan to address gaps, implementing the improvement plan, and benchmarking with others. And if interested, applying for a National Excellence Award. It also talks about the relationship to the certified management consultant common body of knowledge. And you can see some really close parallels between the two, but you can also see that there's some gaps. And I noticed there were gaps in the work processes area. And this is an area where certified management consultants might look to adding, to the body of knowledge. The template is organized this way, and so that as you look through the various chapters of the publication, in each of the key management areas, and it's describing the best management practices and providing these implementation guidelines, but it starts with a statement of the practice and then a definition of it. And this is really taken from the leading excellence model, so we make sure we've got all these definitions in one place. Then it speaks about implementation, provides a description of how to implement the practice, talks about the type of organization that it's applicable to. So you're going to see some differences by organization size. Only about half the practices are applicable to a micro-size organization with 1 to 25 employees, whereas all of them are applicable to larger size organizations. It also talks about the interrelationships between the principles and the practices in the framework and the practices themselves. There's additional notes that speak about application differences that we might see when we're working with this in the public, private, nonprofit sector, risks that might impact implementation and how to mitigate such, and other sources of information on the practice that may be within or outside the scope of the framework. At the end of every chapter actually is a resource list, so there's additional information if people want to dive a little bit deeper. And there's some appendices that list the principles and practices in the framework and highlights the touch points with the leading excellence model. So it shows where there's similarities, but where there might be some gaps in these models. There's an appendix that describes the principles in more detail, and another that shares the assessment and improvement planning process that we use. So really, it's a good guide for professionals and organizations to use, to put this publication to work for them. Our scenario games, we've got 2 of them. One that will allow an organization to compare its current state and desired future state and provides a path forward. And another scenario game that examines the way leaders make decisions and the consequences of such. It's quite eye-opening, actually. And these are fun scenario games that can be done in half a day that get people thinking. The automated assessment and reporting tool that we have is just a great diagnostic. It allows an organization to go through and rate how they're doing on the practices and the principles, provide open-end comments. It can be scaled up so that all the employees in an organization can weigh in and the results can be aggregated, or all the members of an industry association. And we're using it to do this global research study. So we're looking at what's going on by organizations, size, industry sector, and country all around the world. But the system is great in that it aggregates the information, creates dashboards, and automatically delivers an action-oriented report. And this report is in an editable Word format. And the report is great. It just saves 1 or 2 days of time, and it's flexible in that it can be augmented if the professional wants to provide more analysis, speak to the findings, conclusions, provide some best-in-class examples, talk about the alignment of this with strategic imperatives. So it's very, very powerful, and it's on our website and available for anyone that wants to use it. And the system also allows a consultant or an organization to have their own place on the system if they want to do these sorts of assessments over time and monitor their performance. Now we have 2 types of workshops. We have the holistic workshop, and this is the one where organizations can kind of eat the whole elephant. It provides a high-level overview of the principles and the practices in the key management areas, provides a guide for the entire excellence journey, and it's a workshop that can be customized for the audience with relevant examples and so forth, and can be delivered at the per diem rate of the professional. And we like to customize the workshops with things like pictures and quotes and video clips and best-in-class examples and hands-on exercises so that people taking the workshop can have a lot of fun, as well as coming away with a good roadmap for their excellence journey, the improvement plan that they need to address gaps going forward over the next 1, 2, 3 years. There's also the modular workshop. And these workshops focus on a key management area, because what we find when organizations do a full assessment, there's usually a couple areas where they need to do a little bit more work. And so this is where they might want to concentrate. And so this allows them to dive a little deeper into the key management area, assess how they're doing, and prepare an improvement plan to address any gaps. So these workshops really help address those more specific issues faced by organizations, and help address those things that are keeping the leader up at night. The Train the Trainer program is available for professionals that want to use the toolkit. You can be unlicensed if you want to fly on your own, and if you want to use this, of course, within an organization, if you're a trainer or you're an internal consultant or an excellence manager. And then there's the licensed professionals that receive a stamp of approval from us to deliver the tools because they've completed an exam and demonstrated that they can facilitate the workshop to a desired level. So each licensed professional can use the toolkit. It can be an internal employee in the organization or a consultant working with many organizations. And those that are licensed also have access to quite a few resources behind the scenes that keep them current and provide other opportunities for them to excel in this field. And last but not least, the Global Organizational Excellence Index. And this is a global research study that was launched by the Organizational Excellence Technical Committee at ASQ. And it's been a study that's been supported by the Global Benchmarking Network, ISO Technical Committee 176, which oversees 9001, and the International Academy for Quality. And I'm leading this study, and we've got about 350 volunteer researchers around the world working on it. And, most of the research to date in this area has focused on high-performing organizations and what they look like, what does their profile tell us? But this is the very first time that this kind of study has been done that will show the current state of excellence for organizations around the world along that continuum of excellence, from those that have never heard of excellence models and are not using them, right through to those that are very sophisticated in using them. So it's really going to give us a good read on current state, and hopefully from the good work that everyone does in this field, we can see that index changing over time and numbers moving in the right direction. I'd like to share too an implementation process that's worked really well for me over time. And this is generally the implementation process that we use. And we start with a presentation to leadership, explaining to them, about excellence models and the excellence journey, and really letting them know what is possible in their organization, answering questions and making sure they feel really comfortable with the work going forward. And then we transfer knowledge to the people within the organization so they have a good understanding of this as well. And that enables them to weigh in on a self-assessment of the organization to identify strengths and opportunities for improvement. And we generate that improvement plan to address gaps. And one thing that we found works really, really well is delegate all those action plans, all those things that need to be done to address gaps to the people working within the organization. So individuals and teams all have something to do and are all engaged and involved in the excellence journey. And then we provide support to them as required. It might be coaching, mentoring, some additional training, but it really becomes their improvement plan and their work that is celebrated over time. And take great delight actually in seeing organizations on their excellence journey getting great results across a balanced system of measurement, and celebrating the good work that these employees do. Lots of times employees sign up to, oversee a given action plan because they're interested or they know something about the area or they want to learn more. And they all do pretty good work at the end of the day. So it's wonderful to celebrate them, and wonderful to be able to provide support when they need it as well. So this is my next question for you in terms of a polling question is, does your organization do an annual assessment to kind of assess the current state of excellence? Yes or no?
As that goes out, I'd think that they'd be doing more frequently than annually. Although, as per the responses, seems like everyone's saying no.
Huh?
They do not even doing it on an annual basis. I would think minimum on a quarterly.
Yeah, with the like they're doing an assessment against the entire excellence model, and you're getting all the employees to weigh in on it. It actually can be done quite quickly, especially if you're using the online tool.
Right.
And people have got a bit of education and training, but it can be done really quite quickly. It can be done over a couple of weeks as people all weigh in, and you get a good cross section of people responding, and then you can summarize the results and give them a snapshot of where they're at.
So yeah, the result was 100% no.
Interesting. Well, isn't that fascinating? Wow, I guess there's an opportunity, right?
Exactly.
So let's talk about that opportunity. Let's talk about assessing your organization. And I'm going to give you an opportunity to do this, and it'll be more after the fact, after this webinar is over. But there's two opportunities. There's an opportunity to self-assess against the principles that describe the culture of excellence. And the principles are listed here on the screen. And as you're using the assessment tool, you can put your cursor over top of the statement, and it brings up more information so that you can validate, what these particular terms mean. And so there's an opportunity to do that. The rating scale that we use for the principles describes that organization culture. It's a subjective scale, it's a gut feel. To what extent does this describe the culture in our organization, or the way people work together? And you've got a chance to weigh in on strengths and opportunities for improvement by using the section for open-ended comments. And what this teaser assessment does is that takes about 5 minutes to do it. But what it does is it generates a report and sends it back to your inbox. So you'll get a free report back that captures your ratings, your open-ended comments, your overall dashboard, and then it will highlight for the low-rated items what those low-rated items are related to in terms of the best management practices, and it gives you a better understanding about how you might increase the rating in those areas. Now, the opportunity to do the full assessment, it allows you to weigh in on the culture and all the best management practices in all these key management areas. And this is part of what we're doing in our research study, and this is very interesting as you take a dive into all of these areas and you see the best management practices that are part of them. We use a different rating scale when doing this. It's much more objective, and we're taking a look at 4 different levels with the corresponding percentage scores. I want to make a note that most organizations that earn a National Excellence Award are very high performing, usually come away with a 60% rating across all these practices or more. And so when you take a look at rating your organization on these practices, you really want to sit back and say, are we using a reasonable approach or method as we deploy this practice? Is it deployed throughout the entire organization? We take a look at the work process or the practice characteristics. We have to ask ourselves, to what degree do the people in the organization really understand this? Is it being used in a stable fashion throughout the organization? Do we have documentation describing the practice? And is there some continual improvement activity going on? And if there is, what kind of results are we getting? And last but not least, what's the focus as we consider this practice in our organization? Are we focusing on correcting problems when they occur, or preventing problems from occurring, or continual improvement, or sustained continual improvement? So this is a little bit different rating scale. And similarly, when you're using the rating scale on the teaser assessment or the full assessment, if you hold your cursor over top of each item on the rating scale, it brings up this information so that you can always be rating things as consistently, and especially if there are other people weighing in from your organization, you want to make sure that everybody's rating the same thing in the same way. This is where you can complete the full assessment, and we'll share these, of course, links again with people after the webinar so they can weigh in. Now, you don't get a report back on this unless you're prepared to pay a fee for it, but you can take a look at the sample report if you want by visiting the homepage of our website and clicking on the Start button, and that'll bring up a sample report, and you can take a look at it. So you can see the kind of report that you're going to get if you pay a small fee for it. What you want to do after you've finished the full assessment is you want to prepare a chart like this that summarizes your overall ratings, your average rating in each of these areas. And it really gives you a great snapshot of how your organization is doing. Where are your strengths, where are your opportunities for improvement. And you can do this as well, I might add, in Appendix 3 of the publication. It's got this in a more manual format, and you can keep track of your ratings, open-ended comments there. But it's good to key them into the system. It allows you to become part of the global study that we're doing. You could even order a report at a future point in time if you want it. So here's my fourth polling question for you. As we consider the balanced system of measurement and all the ways in which we can measure how we're doing in these key management areas and for the organization as a whole, I'd like to know, does your organization use a balanced system of measurement? Yes or no?
On this side, we're actually at 100% yes this time.
Excellent. Well, isn't that wonderful? You know, because if you take a look, a lot of organizations these days are asking that question. What do we measure? How do we measure? And they really want to come away with, you know, a handful of measures that will give them good feedback in these areas about how they're doing and, you know, where they need to concentrate effort. You know, for micro-size organization, there's only 4 measures, but for larger size organizations, it's good to have a few more that give you a real good sense across these areas.
I actually often hear how companies are trying to reduce their measures, especially within banks. They're at like 750 KPIs, and then they aren't leveraging them or using them. So they're constantly trying to reduce the number of measures to have more, like you said, more macro level measures that are more valuable to high level senior management.
Yeah, I mean, it's 4 measures that are recommended for micro-size organizations. It's 6 to 8 measures for larger. There might be some industry-specific measures that are really important to you in an organization, but yeah, dealing with just a handful of measures is quite enough. And those measures, if they help you make better decisions and help you improve your performance and get at what you need to improve, that's what's really important. You don't want to just create a lot of paperwork for yourself and you know, lots of hours of work, and if it's not really going to make a difference for you, you know, support your efforts. So now we want to take a look at how we can benchmark with other organizations. And these are the organizations that have participated in the global research study to date. All of these organizations are participating in confidence. We're only aggregating the results so that we can share it, and organizations can bench with others by size, industry, sector, and country. And this is the kind of data that we've been collecting so far. Quite a few organizations weighing in on the teaser assessment. We've got all 21 industry sectors weighing in, and 86 countries so far, which is pretty good out of 218. And we see that leadership and management are, you know, primarily responding, and pretty good response from different sizes of organizations, but mostly micro size. And we see again the business sector responding to a greater extent. But pretty happy with these results so far. And this is the picture it's giving us. It's telling us to what extent organizations have a culture of excellence. And you can see from looking at the chart that the highest rated principles are the focus on the customer and leadership involvement, whereas the lowest rated principles are database decision making and prevention-based process management. And so, you know, using data to make decisions and doing work in the area of our work processes so that we're always looking at how do we prevent problems from occurring, not just taking corrective action. On the full assessment, where we're taking a look at the principles and all of the best management practices across the organization, we don't have quite as many organizations responding, about 315 so far, and just about all the industry sectors and 50 countries, which is pretty good. Again, predominantly leadership and management responding. Here we've got a greater number of large organizations responding to this in terms of size, and again, business dominating in terms of their interest in this. This one takes a little longer to fill out. For a micro-size organization, it'll probably take about 15 minutes, and for a larger organization where there's twice as many practices to rate, it takes a little longer, 20, 25 minutes. And here we see their results on the principles are the same. It's very similar, more of strength in the focus on the customer and leadership involvement. And once again, that database decision-making and prevention-based process management are the low scoring items. I think overall these principles are rated pretty high, because when we take a look at what happens when organizations are rating across the best management practices in the key management areas, we notice a significant drop. So it's like when people take a deeper dive and they really take a look in more depth at how things are going, we see the numbers are significantly lower. But we see strength here in the customer side and the governance side of organizations. And we see opportunities for improvement in the remaining categories. Particularly planning and work with suppliers and partners and the way we manage resources. And I've noted that so far, looking at the data, that organizations are doing pretty good at putting in present-oriented practices, but they're not paying attention to future-oriented practices, things like, should we have contingency plans for unforeseen events? And the other thing I'm noticing is a little bit low is taking, again, that external focus of, how can we work with customers and suppliers and partners to better what we do? And the lowest score of all practices so far is benchmarking, or comparing what we're doing with others and learning from others. So, as I indicated earlier, when we embark on an excellence journey or work to address an opportunity for improvement, it's a lot like climbing a mountain, one step at a time until you get to the top and then can appreciate the great view and all the effort involved in getting to the peak. So I'd like to pause here if we've got a little bit of time to open it up to questions and answers. And I really hope that this program is going to be really helpful to the work that you do, and will help you use that formula for success in your organization or your work with organizations, and give you a chance to go to greater heights and reach those exceptional results that we have when we think about climbing that mountain.
Thanks, Don. That was great. Lots of analytics, lots of customer cases to tie with your methodology that you've successfully deployed and collected information across the globe and across industries. So that's interesting. I do have a couple of questions that did come up. One being, you mentioned 4 measures, and they're saying, which would you recommend would be those 4 measures?
It's for 4 measures for micro-sized organizations. They take a look at the quality of the product or service. They take a look at customer satisfaction, employee satisfaction, and financial results. So for a business, it would be profitability. For a government organization, it would be, adherence to the budget.
Yeah, great. There was also a question regarding collection of measures and data. They asked if it takes 20 minutes, to complete the survey. The question is, how long does it take to collect the data? Meaning, and I understand this because I guess there's a difference between responding to a survey and actually collecting all the data that they may not have access to in terms of from the company. Does it take, 3-month project, 6-month project to get access to that information out of the systems?
Yeah, when we do work with organizations, I'm for example, we say, okay, everybody weigh in on this self-assessment over the next 2 weeks. You give people a chance to respond. And then we generate the report automatically. And it brings out the dashboards for the principals and each of the key management areas. And then we have a chance, we can share that right away, so they can see how they're doing on all the principles and practices. But we also are often asked to do a bit of analysis. So we take a look at the results at a little bit more depth. Like, for example, is there a difference in the way that leadership, management, and staff are responding? What are the open-ended comments saying? Mm-hmm. Usually open-ended comments really help us better understand the ratings and any differences there are, and those open-ended comments really provide an opportunity for some real quick wins, things that can be addressed by leadership right away that can make a real difference in the organization. So it doesn't really take too long if we're weighing in with that extra analysis, findings, and conclusions, and augmenting the report. We need to take a little time to do that. That'll take us a day or two to do that.
That's actually something that definitely companies leverage our tool for ongoing measurement and ongoing visibility in terms of the current state. So not only looking at the top measures, then breaking those down into low-level KPIs, and then actually attaching them to the different systems to collect the data directly out of the systems whereby they reside into a clean view against targets, as well as or collect them manually via where depending on the questions and the required metrics, they can collect it into reports and then import it into the system, let's say on a quarterly basis. So then you get your whole historical trends too, and then rolls up to, at the end of the day, as you mentioned, customer satisfaction is in the red or the green. Then you can drill down into what area of the business and actually tie it, as an example, customer satisfaction with the customer journey and the process that they go through, and understand that, clarify it, and see at what stage of the customer journey are they not happy. Because they may be satisfied, as an example, with the, I don't know if it's like an Amazon, but maybe the purchasing process is great, but the support process for returns is where they're not happy, so on and so forth. So that then you can be more actionable too.
Oh, absolutely. This is all interrelated and interconnected, and what it gives you at the end of the day is just a beautiful picture of the system that your organization is using and how you're doing, and it makes you it puts you in a state of readiness so you can compare how you're doing to others and learn from those high performing examples. And in benchmarking, there's I think 95% of improvement will come from the people doing the work, because they've got ideas and suggestions. And when you tap that out, and if it ever does get tapped out, you can look to other organizations and learn from them, because you're always going to learn something from a high performer that's going to be of value to your organization as well.
Absolutely. It's actually something that we leverage in-house here using a continuous agile approach, whereby it's not about long-term planning for major transformations. It is for the bigger picture, but we do on a 3-week sprint collection of every sprint across all departments, what worked, what didn't, what changes should we be do. So it's something that a lot of large organizations are adopting now, is, like you said, that stepping stone of using the feedback. Well, one, providing a platform for them to provide feedback, but then to continuously integrate that feedback. It's great having a message box of things to improve, but if no one's making them actionable, then it doesn't do much, right? You also mentioned a preventive process management. Maybe they're saying, can you talk a bit more to that, which I guess would be our targeted audience around process management. What would you describe as preventative process management?
Well, if I'll start by saying start talking about corrective. Corrective is when a problem occurs and you have that knee-jerk reaction of, oh, how can we address that? But then nothing's done about it. It could happen again and again and again. But if you have a more preventive mindset, you can take a look at a problem occurring, and you can take a look even at trends over time if this has occurred before. But you're taking a look at, well, how can we prevent that problem from happening again? Which is very, very important, because failures are very, very costly. And so it's having that preventive mindset. And then you move to that continual improvement mindset, which is the way you're looking at your work and the way you're doing your work with that mindset of continual improvement. What are we doing today? How can we do it better?
Couldn't agree more. And like you said, I think often companies tend to focus only on the 80%. It's often that 20 is when disaster recovery comes in, where people need reference to what to do in this situation. So I do definitely recommend in terms of maybe improvement focusing, but in terms of those 20% ensuring that those are managed best and ensuring that people know what to do in those situations and not just all continuously, like you said, taking corrective actions and what I call their start running around with their what do you call it, chicken with the head cut off or rooster with his head cut off.
Exactly. And I mean, in the preventive area, you're using, tools like root cause analysis to get at the root cause of the situation and prevent it from happening again, so it doesn't plague you anymore. Because sometimes in our knee-jerk reactions to things, or in our initial assessment of an issue, we might not get to the root cause, and you've got to get to the root cause in order to be effective in this area.
And for everyone that's listening, if you're looking for a great methodology for root cause analysis, we use DMAC. It's excellent for that. It's something we offer in our services. It's difference between improvement and actually understanding what's going wrong first.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Since we've run over the hour by a good 10 minutes, I figure I'll wrap it up here. And thank you once again, Dawn, for taking all the time, sharing all your information. Everyone, please feel free to reach out to Dawn directly for her services. Be happy for you to engage her in terms of their team, how you can improve your operational intelligence, how to get benchmarks against other industries, organizations around the world, and see how you're performing. And Dawn, personally, thank you very much. Appreciate all the time you've taken.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Scott. Thanks very much for organizing the webinar and making it possible. I really enjoyed participating.
Great. And thank you everyone who attended today's session. There is a short little survey if you can complete it afterwards to get feedback in terms of the content, the speaker, the format. We're here to continuously improve as well. So thank you all for attending.